Kia ora, my name is Maggie Gaffney, and I'd love to share with you a little bit about my one ship study. Well, at the moment, it's more of a one voyage study. Well, you have to start somewhere, right? This voyage of the Mermaid departed Gravesend, England on the 13th of November 1863 and arrived in Littleton, Canterbury, New Zealand on the 16th of February 1864. But why did I start with this one? What was so special about this voyage? My great-great-grandparents Martin Burke and Anne Philp were on board with their 15-month-old daughter Mary, and I was curious about their journey. What was it like? What were their shipmates like? Did they make lifelong connections with them? To begin, let me introduce you to my place, the ship Mermaid. The passengers who boarded the Mermaid in November 1863 came from all over Britain and Ireland, and now this ship was going to be their home for the next 3 months. She was a three-masted, fully rigged ship designed for fast ocean-going voyages, called a clipper ship for going at a clip, an American expression for going quickly. She was built in 1853 in Nova Scotia, and in 1854 was sold to Pilkington and Wilson of Liverpool to become part of the White Star Line's fleet for travel to Australia. And her maiden voyage departed London for Melbourne on the 3rd of May 1854. She made 10 voyages to New Zealand. Her first voyage to New Zealand was in 1859, sailing to Auckland, and she sailed again to Auckland in 1860, this time via Melbourne. In 1861, Henry Rose took command of the ship and sailed her to Auckland, and he remained captain of the Mermaid for the next 7 voyages from London to Littleton and Canterbury, and it's these New Zealand voyages that my study is concentrating on. I thought in this short talk we could look at one aspect of ship life, the sleeping arrangements. What were they like? Several sources can tell us about shipboard life, and there are 2 passenger diaries that survive for this voyage that I know about. One of them was written by Thomas Kerr, a 24-year-old from Forfarshire, Scotland, who was travelling with his family, his father, stepmother, and 6 siblings. Thomas and his family were assisted immigrants and were travelling in steerage. This meant they had part of their fare paid for by the provincial government of Canterbury. Other passengers paid their own way, either in steerage like the Kerr family or in the first or second cabins. If you were in steerage, you had to bring your own bedding. In fact, you were advised to bring quite a few things from the pamphlet given to you by the immigration agents. For example, here's the bedding that you needed. It gave the size of your mattress, the bed linen you needed, and a canvas bag to keep it in. Thomas wrote in his diary on the 11th of November, "Got our mattresses, etc. at Silver & Co. £5 13 shillings. Got on board, got our bedding, etc. to fit, with all in good spirits, all lights out at 9 p.m. And if we have a look at the advertisement that was found in the immigration pamphlet, you can see there is one warehouse for steerage and second-class passengers, and then another one for first-class outfits. 2 days later, the ship anchored off Gravesend, and Thomas writes, "2 other bunks have been knocked up in our crowded compartment." All these bunks were built in the 'tween deck for the voyage out to New Zealand, but they weren't necessary on the way back, and the 'tween deck was used for cargo. So what was the 'tween deck? Now, Cuddy Sark was pretty much the ultimate clipper ship, built in 1869 in Scotland, and you can visit it in London. If we look at a cross-section of the Cuddy Sark, the 'tween deck was between the main deck and the lower cargo hold. And if we take a look inside, you can see the height of the area, or lack thereof. And obviously there was no electric lighting in 1863. But what were the bunks like on the 'tween deck? This is the Edwin Fox, and it's the oldest remaining convict ship. It was built in 1853, same year as the Mermaid, but she was a bit smaller than our sleek clipper ship. She carried troops to the Crimean War, transported convicts to Australia, and she made 4 voyages to New Zealand in the 1870s. And this is what the layout of the bunks in steerage would have looked like. So you've got the single woman in the stern, married couples with their children in the middle, and the single men in the bow. Have a look here. That's where the main hatches were. So that was the source of the natural light. So it'd be quite dark in there. The ship is dry docked at the Edwin Fox Maritime Centre at Picton in New Zealand. And basically it's just the hull left, but you can get an idea of the size. But they have these replica bunks. Each bunk would be for a couple and up to 4 children. You can actually climb in and try it out for size. I didn't. And these replica bunks are the ones at the Maritime Museum in Liverpool, and probably more like the ones that you would find in the Mermaid. This illustration is from 1844, but it gives you a really great sense of what it would have been like. You can see the bunks along the sides and that communal eating area in the middle. Living in such close quarters, you'd get to know your fellow passengers pretty well. So, who was on board? We know there were 280 assisted immigrants because they were on the surviving passenger list. Here's the Keir family and Thomas the diary writer. They're listed as a family group. However, notice the family members that have got their ages crossed out and got transferred next to it. Anyone 13 and over was put in the single men's or the single woman's quarters and appear in that listing too. And here's where they're from. And this reflects the general makeup of immigrants to New Zealand at this time. But what was recorded in the passenger listing didn't tell the whole story, or what it did tell sometimes wasn't completely correct. For example, Hugh Gray was a land steward from Fermanagh, travelling with his wife and family. Well, Fermanagh may have been the last place that he lived, but he was originally from Downpatrick in County Down. He also never arrived in Lyttelton, despite the newspaper listing him, as he was one of the 4 passengers who died on the voyage out. Martin Burke, my ancestor, was listed as a ploughman from Fife. He may have briefly been in Fife with his wife Anne's family before they left, but he was originally from County Mayo in Ireland, and from the age of 10 he'd grown up in Perth, Scotland. And their daughter Mary was 15 months, not 5, as recorded here. But that's all part of the fun, and I'm enjoying researching and following them up. So that's the 280 assisted immigrants, but the Lyttelton Times newspaper reported 358 and helpfully included the names of the 29 who were in the first and second cabins. So that leaves potentially 49 who had paid their own passage and steerage. So how can I find out who they were? By picking up names from personal accounts such as Thomas Keir's, from obituaries and newspaper articles, the Cyclopedia of New Zealand, gravestones, family stories from descendants. The great thing about doing a one-ship study is you can start small, one voyage at a time, like I have. If you have a voyage you're interested in, find out what records survive. I have a passenger list naming the assisted immigrants, a newspaper article with the cabin passengers named. Got 2 diaries, some letters. The Captain Henry Rose also left a memoir. There were 48 crew members on board, and the crew list and the ship's official logbook survive. And there are surviving diaries and documents relating to the other voyages the Mermaid took to New Zealand. One challenging aspect for me was figuring out how to present Thomas Keir's diary online and in what format. I'd been slowly transcribing Keir's diary when I realised that the 160th anniversary of this voyage was coming up, which gave me a bit of a kick to get it online and post each day's entry on its anniversary. And apart from 2 days when they were in the Channel and Thomas was pretty seasick, he wrote every day. So every day, apart from those 2 days, that day's diary entry was posted. Over Christmas and our summer holiday here in New Zealand, I wrote some posts ahead of time and scheduled their publication. It was kind of a relief to finally reach Journey's End at Lyttelton on February the 16th. My challenge now is to add biographical information for each passenger and crew member, to research the generation before they left their old home and the generation after they arrived in their new one. If you'd like to know more about the Mermaid and Thomas Kerr and his journey, you can read Thomas's diary on the website, Mermaid 1864. Or you can come along to my presentation at the Connections Conference in Brisbane, Australia next March. If you're thinking about starting a one-ship study, just start. Start small, set yourself a deadline, get it online, find things to motivate you like this All About That Place event, and most of all, have fun.